right outside, so come on in and don't be shy. We've got ghosts and UFOs. Brace yourself, get ready for the show. Don't be afraid of the dark. The fun's about to start. Nightmares or tales will inspire. Oh, tonight at the Scaredy Campfire. Have you heard tell of a demon next door? Or maybe a cryptid on the lake shore? There's nothing too strange for us here. So if you're ready, stamp out your fear. Don't be afraid of the dark. The fun's about to start. Nightmares or tales will inspire. Tonight at the Scaredy Campfire. Whoa, whoa.
Welcome back, campers, to episode 13 of the Scaredy Campfires. 13. A number long tied to bad luck and superstition. And fittingly, tonight's stories carry that weight, with encounters that twist ordinary nights into something unforgettable. From strange sounds in the woods to figures lurking just out of sight, these tales remind us why the unknown keeps us looking over our shoulders. The Appalachian Mountains have always carried stories, strange sounds in the woods, shadows where no one should be, and the feeling of being watched. For Reddit user u/BZXN, those stories were just that, tales, until a hike in upstate New York turned belief into experience. What began as a simple trek through slush and snow quickly spiraled into a chilling encounter that left them questioning everything they thought they knew. Apologies in advance because this is pretty long and I am on mobile. For a little backstory, I never 100% believed in the paranormal until very recently. I live in the countryside in upstate New York, and where I am is part of the Allegheny Plateau, which in turn is part of the Appalachian Mountains. Because of this, I've always been interested in reading and hearing stories about experiences, online and in person, from the folks I know. I had never had one of my own aside from the occasional feeling of being watched or strange noise in the woods, nothing to personally attest to anything paranormal being totally real. I'm an avid hiker, and I often go on day hikes with a friend of mine. We try to go at least once or twice a month, even in the winter. We discovered a park on Google Maps that was about an hour's drive away, and some parts had old-growth forest. We went one day back in late 2023, but didn't have a lot of time before sunset. Being a chilly late evening in September, there was only one other car in the parking lot when we got there. The trail went down the side of a narrow valley and then across the width of the floor to a large creek at the other side, and took about 20 to 30 minutes to walk one way. The car at the top belonged to a woman who was just leaving the creek when we got down there. As it was going to be dark in about half an hour, we said hello, and she left, so we were completely alone down in the creek bed. After only a little over 10 minutes of being down there, I started to get the familiar feeling of being watched, but didn't really think of much of it, as it's something I'm pretty used to, but the feeling didn't go away. Instead, It seemingly got slowly worse until we heard something in the distance. To me, it sounded like some sort of chanting, while my friend said it sounded like an outdoor concert or a large crowd of people, but we both agree it sounded like it was coming from a distance beyond the top of the valley where we had to hike back to. This unnerved us quite a bit, so we started heading back right away, not really talking on the way. The hike back uphill was tiring and progressively got darker to the point we used our phone flashlights just to make sure we didn't trip over an odd root or rock wherever. I was walking behind my friend and felt that same feeling coming from behind us all the way to the car. That definitely was made worse by the darkness, but nothing noteworthy happened, so we left and went home. Flash forward to just a couple of weeks ago in December, me and the same friend decided to go back to the park. This time we planned better and had about 2 months to explore before sunset. It was a warmer, sunnier day in the mid-40s after a few weeks of lake effect snow and lower temperatures. This made the trail a slick mess of slush, mud, and snow, and the creek had a high water level, so we continued further on the path parallel to the creek than we did the first time we were there. Again, I had the same feeling that I had last time, and we came across a scarf hanging from a branch of shrub/bush about 10 feet off the trail. We took a note of it and were a little spooked by it, but it didn't bother us too much, and we kept going for another 30 minutes or so before getting cold enough to start heading back. There were at least 4 or 5 times while heading back where I heard a twig snap or a little rustle of dead leaves on the ground, but I thought I probably shouldn't mention or act like I noticed it, as that's what you're supposed to do with these sort of things in the Appalachian Mountains. We got all the way to the bottom of the hill when my friend steps out into a clearing to take a picture. I take one too, but want to keep going without saying it out loud, so I clear my throat and exaggerate my footsteps so he could hear me continuing. I later learned that he doesn't hear this at all. He said he felt like he was in a trance or being pulled for a minute there. I walked about 30 feet away from him and stopped to wait because he would be out of sight if I kept going. All of a sudden, he looks behind him down the trail towards the creek as if he heard something, but looks back to the clearing to presumably take another picture. Right as he does this, we both hear a noise coming from right next to him, like something moving in the brush. He turned back around to find nothing there, and we make eye contact as he starts to make his way up to me. Right as he does this, I very clearly hear the sound of 2 sudden footsteps in the dead leaves less than 5 feet behind me, one right after the other, like something starting to quickly approach, but stopping quickly on the second step, almost as if it's taunting me. I turn and completely freeze when I see that there is absolutely nothing behind me that could have made such a noise. My friend quickly catches up to me and asks me something I don't remember, but I quickly tell him to just be quiet and keep walking, please. When we got in the car, I nearly had a panic attack telling him what happened, and that I never truly believe in anything like that until now. We got the hell out of there, and when I got home I told my folks about it, half expecting to not be taken seriously, but my grandma told me she fully believed me, and that some people had lost their lives at the park over the years, when my grandpa chimes in and says that a lot of people have died there. The images we took in the clearing right before the noises were also time-stamped at exactly 3 o'clock, if that means anything. I have some other stories that don't make me sound as crazy as this one, but this is the experience that made me truly believe, and it will definitely stick with me for a while. To this day, u/BZXN can't forget the sounds of footsteps that had no source, or the sense of something unseen watching from the trees. Was it a trick of the wilderness, or something much older that calls those mountains home? Whatever it was, that hike turned a skeptic into a believer, and left behind a story that refuses to be shaken. Legends of skinwalkers and witches are often tied to remote places, where silence and shadows seem to stretch endlessly. Reddit user u/combatcomo recalls a night in rural Mexico during the 1990s that has never left them. What began as an evening of stories with friends quickly turned into a chilling encounter with a man whose unsettling smile and dark reputation made them question if they had just come face to face with something far more sinister than a neighbor. I was visiting relatives in Mexico mid-1990s, and believe me, my friend and I encountered a possible skinwalker. My ancestors came from a very small town, and back then everyone had outhouses due to no actual plumbing or even underground water lines. I believe this is still the case. It's pretty remote, and there are other surrounding towns with similar circumstances. There's hardly anything to do other than to hang out, play some sport, go up near the mountains, etc. This evening, we were hanging out with a buddy whose family owned a small store. I can't even remember all the stuff we were talking about now, but at some point my cousin started talking about this old man that we all knew. As far as I can remember, he was probably in his late 60s, didn't have any family I could recall, and he lived alone in his house/property. In my cousin's own words, he used to tell me how he would escape his enemies by disappearing. He said they would step all over him and that it would hurt, but that he needed to keep quiet so he wouldn't be discovered. Now, this old man already had a reputation for being a witch, and that's what some people referred to him as. I always thought that the locals called him that because he was a bit antisocial, old, and had seemingly had no friends. But my cousin would talk to him on occasion as we walked through town, just a simple, "Hey mister, how's it going?" So my cousin and the other kids from the town were talking about him and how mysterious he was, and that they believed he did indeed practice black magic. So after we were done talking, it was probably around 10 p.m. The store had already been closed since like 6 p.m. or so, and my buddy wanted to keep it shut so that we could keep talking about whatever without anyone listening. So once we left, this old man's house was about 3 properties away from the store, and while we were still talking about it, he was apparently looking over his adobe wall, which was maybe 6 feet tall. And he was not as tall, so he may have been standing on a chair, but he was leaning over the wall and had the creepiest smile ear to ear on his face, while kind of nodding his head up and down while watching us walk down the road. This road, like many others, wasn't paved. Again, a very small town with very little 20th century features. And at that point, we were all creeped out, and it scared the shit out of us. Of course, there's no way to tell if he really was a skinwalker, but at that point, I firmly believed he was something evil, and I wanted nothing to do with him. And the reason I think he was a skinwalker years later is because in that small town, like just about every Mexican small town, there are always certain people that are accused of practicing black magic. Most times, these people are accused of being lechuzas, who are supposed to be witches that transform into owls. So the fact my cousin said he could disappear, I figured now that means he can transform, and that is why I now believe he was a skinwalker. Did his black magic powers help him realize we were talking about him? Because otherwise, what the hell was he doing leaning over the wall with that creepy smile like that? At a time of night when most people were asleep? Just thought that was weird and ominous. Most times, people refer to skinwalkers as folks in the US, particularly natives. Except we don't call them that. However, one should be able to see the overlapping culture between Mexico and native Indian tribes. To this day, u/combatcomo can't shake the memory of that figure leaning over the wall, grinning as if he knew exactly what they had been saying. Was he just an eccentric old man, or something darker? A Bruja? A lechuza? A skinwalker watching from the shadows. Some encounters never come with answers, only the unease of knowing you might have looked directly at something evil. That concludes our 13th Gathering Campers. Some stories leave scars, others leave only questions, but all remind us how thin the veil truly is. Thanks for braving the night with us. Until the fire calls us back together, tread carefully in the dark, and remember, not every shadow is your own.
As the night gets longer and the darkness creeps in, with the eerie silence broken only by whispering wind, come gather round the fire, the flickering flames, and hear the tales of the spooky and the strange. Chill up your back, a shiver up your spine. You'll be haunted by the things that you find. Legends will unfold and stories will be told at the Scaredy Campfire. For only